Alright guys, we are here and we are going to learn Construct 3 today. Maybe not all parts, or definitely not all parts of it, because I am still learning myself, but I wanted to show how-tos on easy to understand ways. So, once you are in construct.net, or basically Google Construct 3 and you can easily find this page. We're going to go to Products, Construct 3, and launch Construct 3. Now there is a free version which has limited options. For the game we are making today, we can do everything. Or at least for what we're making today, we can do everything. So we're going to make a new and call it Platformer. Yes, we are starting with Platformer just like all the other YouTube how-tos. Actually, I need to explain a little bit of that. So new project, Platformer. So choose preset, whatever size, portrait, whatever you want to set. 16 by 9 works for me. 1920 by 1080. It doesn't need to be that big, but the smaller you go, the more pixelated it will be, depending on how you do your images. So orientation landscape, correct. Start with event sheet. So now we have our layout 1 and our event sheet 1. And if you look here, I'm holding control, scrolling the mouse to zoom out, pushing the mouse wheel to click and drag the screen around. And as you can see here, we have this weird little box and this big old screen. What's going on there? So the size is 3840 by 2160. I believe that could possibly be the maximum size. Not entirely sure. But since our project size is 1920 by 1080, we're going to type in 1920 on the size, comma, 1080. And that will fit the gray screen to the full image of the game that will be loaded. Alright, so I actually have, I think it's this one. Yes. I have animations for this guy on top down. I'm going to use him instead of the proper one. And I also have images somewhere else. Not quite sure where off the top of my head with all this in the way. So we're going to just jump right into it. Now for me, I would be doing sprite or insert new image, sprite object. Click anywhere on the screen, load, and so desktop load runner folder, and then this is all my different load runner games, which is basically the game I'm trying to mimic is the old school load runner. When you basically have enemies chasing you, you dig a hole, they fall in it, and then the hole collapses in on itself, destroying them. But we're going to do it in our own way, and that way we avoid copyrights. Now say you don't have images set up, and because I'm not sharing my images because I just don't have the space on Dropbox at the moment, I am going to say, let's make this nice and easy for you. So instead of getting images, you can either download images from Google, images that will work, but you cannot use those images to make these games in order to make money. You have to use your own created image. Otherwise, you will get pinged for copyright. And if you don't get pinged for copyright right away and they deny allowing your app to be uploaded, once it gets uploaded, say you stole an image from whatever company and the company finds out, they can now sue you for copyright infringement. This can be a big deficit to your bank account. Be careful when uploading games and images. So, that being said, for this, we're going to do a very, very basic, no detail at all. just so we can make sure we know the methods and the mechanics of the game. And then we can replace these images later as needed. So we're going to make the color green, and we can leave that as is for now on the other one. So we're going to color this block green. Doesn't matter the size. For some things, it may matter on the size. If it does, just click this little arrow here and change the size. And even though I said size does not matter, it did not matter in that spot for what we are using. So basically, we're going to make a ground. And we want some space down here because we're going to be adding touchscreen buttons. But at first, we're going to focus strictly on keyboard event sheets. This way you can practice it mouse and keyboard before you actually upload it. And then we're going to change all the code from mouse and keyboard and put it for touch controls. And now, so we have our ground here, our little green grass. And a few things I want to say. What you can do is you can make a new object, do that all over again with the green, and make a new thing there. But since all of these are going to have the exact same actions, exact same behaviors, and exact same everything is going to be the same. So I'm going to click on this, hold my control, and then click and drag. Now, let me just do a quick example here. I'm going to upload an image from one of my images. And let's say dig. So I'm going to control, click and drag. And I'm going to insert new image. And I'm going to insert dig again. You do not have to do this. This is purely demonstration. So now what is going on here? So this one we've copied with the control drag. The name is sprite. This is the copy. It is sprite. So any change you make to this, say make it sprite 1, it will change this to sprite 1. And later, if you happen to name the bottom floor sprite 4, well, guess what? It's going to change that one to sprite 4. Same for this. Dig is sprite 2. The dragged copy is sprite 2. And the uploaded new image is sprite 3. So if I was to change this to sprite 33, these two do not change. And that is one big thing. You need to know the difference between your copies and your non-copies. And with that being said, we're going to make sure these are deleted. So we're going to go ahead and move this up here. Right now, we're not going to worry too much about size. We do want these layers, or these floors here, to be thinner. And we're going to guesstimate there. So I'm going to click and drag. We're going to make another platform right there. Make another platform right here. And make another platform right there. This probably needs to be farther over. Somewhere there. Alright, so we have one more platform. I'm going to click and drag, and we're going to put this one here. And we are going to try to make this one enough inward to where if you're moving while in air, you're not going to be able to land on it. Same to be from this side. And if you can, we can fix that later, so no big worries. So we have all of our platforms. Every single platform on this level is on the board. We may need to add 1 or 2 here and there, but we will see. So we're going to insert a new object. Uh, for me, this is a hand-drawn one. Tall ladder, there you are. So that is a hand-drawn image. Basically, what I've done, frame. So what I've done is I basically set this size to 50 by 668, and I didn't really choose that. I believe I made this in GIMP, but what you can do to make it in Construct is we're going to make this black, make sure the paint bucket is checked, and paint it black. Now, we're not going to get too much into detail for the tutorial, but if you want, what you could do is use your little selection tool and delete out bits and pieces and make a nice little ladder, which will take time. So we're not going to do that for the demonstration, and I'm going to get rid of my image. So all we have is this little black bar, and this is going to be our ladder. There we go. And for our sake and for future sake, we're going to try to get this as level with the top of that as possible. We're going to drag this in all the way to the side. Maybe a little gap if we need, but we'll fix that later if needed. And I think I will move it down one more notch just to be safe. So we have our ladder there. And for this game, I haven't tried it this way, but we're going to try it this way, see how it goes. We're going to copy this instance by using our control and drag. So this one, if we resize, and as you see, it did not resize this, but sprite is still the sprite. And if we change this to 1, invalid name. Okay, so if we choose sprite 1, then this one changes sprite 1. It copies the coding, it does not copy the visual. So we're going to set that as close to even as possible. And since this one's about the same height, or actually should be the exact same height, we're just going to click and drag the tall one to make it easy. And you don't want to offset. You don't want to set it too far up. You don't want to set it too far low. So while you're clicking and dragging, also push Shift, and it will keep it going straight across. Now that we've done that, we can see we've set that a bit high. And remember, we set it exactly level with that. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to set it exactly level with this. But say you didn't set the ladder yet and you're still trying to set this exactly where you want. So let's say you know the left and right side, the Y side, is exactly where you want it, but you know it's got to come down. So we're going to look at the position for 1490 and 180. 180 being the Y, the second number is always Y, first number is always X. So we're going to drag this one all the way over. Oop, and undo. Remember, 180. So we're going to drag this one all the way over. Make sure that it is as level as possible. And then we are going to change the Y number back to 180. And it will set the Y value to 180. And when we do that, it will force the X to stay the same at 545, which would be the up and down. Actually, I think I got that wrong. Yep. So let's undo. We need the 1489. That is my bad. 1489. So we're changing the first number, the X value, left and right. 1489. So, oh, it disappeared, but it moved it over here. And it didn't quite line up with this, so since we already have the ladder there, we know we can just push it to the side and get it there. And then we'll do the same for this. Literally just have to move it straight to the left, click and drag with shift held, or just hit the arrow keys with it selected. So now we have our platforms and our ladders, but we also want a thing on here to help destroy our player. So I'm going to take this down, maybe roughly there, and another control drag with shift also to make sure it stays perfectly in line with this one. Move it to the edge, maybe even slightly off screen if you want to be safe. And then we're going to say our gap started there and is going to end a little bit after this, because you don't want an easy jump over. You want to have a chance for them to fall down into the pit of nothing. And for the pit of nothing, we are going to insert a new object and click in the rough general location. And I can actually use spikes because I have image for spikes, also handmade. But for you guys, I'm going to say let's make a white. I don't think I have any whites made. Or I don't think I'll need any whites made. Make sure our paint select tool or paint fill is selected, and we're going to paint it white. Here we are. Now there's a few ways you could do this. You could try to line it up to the side, be all nice and perfect and all that. And so basically if he's going to fall into here, but our visual isn't perfect. If you want it to be perfect, but you don't want to be as precise with it, what you can do is overlap. And then if you right click, see order, move to bottom, it puts these in front of that, and now it is filled perfectly. So that's going to be our kill zone, where it kills the player. And we're going to insert new object, a sprite, and as before I could use a key, but for the tutorial for you to easily follow along, we're just going to take this yellow here, make sure paint bucket's filled, and fill it yellow. Size also does not matter because we're not ever taking this off screen except for when we run into it, and then we will not bring it back on screen. If for some reason you was to have it go off screen and you need it to be, say, 250, comma 250. Oh, actually change that. Say you needed the size. Since the size is 36, we'll say 36 by 36 using commas. Don't need a space. It'll fix that for you. Alright, so now we have our key. And we're going to want some barriers. We're going to put some obstacles in the way. So we're going to do another new object. Use an image of a barrier, or we can make something red. make a barrier. We're going to go ahead and allow that to go off screen just so there's no chance of it overlapping or our player jumping over top of it. And then we're just going to give us some playroom on the side here. Just make sure you have some room. This one we can control drag because its actions are going to be exactly the same no matter what. And now we have barriers. So we have ladder, barrier, kill zone. We need a platform to connect these two. So we're going to insert a new object, sprite, and I'm going to give this a quick load just as an example. So moving platform sides. So this is the image that was created. I will show you how to create that image right now. It will only take a second. So we got go to black, fill, black. Boom, done. Halfway. So now we take our selection tool. Does not need to be perfect. And select the inside circle or inside square and delete. Boom, we have our image. How cool is that? So I can delete the one I've uploaded and we're going to keep the one I just drew. That way it's the same as yours. Alright, now for the sake of the layout, we want to set these items exactly where we want them in-game. So we want this piece in-game to be exactly in the center. But we also want to make sure that it's level with the board over there. So how are we going to figure that out? Because we actually need to figure that out mathematically. So this edge is roughly at 410. This edge is roughly at 1370. So 410 spacing over to 1370. That is a 960 point difference. But we don't need 960 points. We need halfway. So half of 960 will be 480. So we're going to take our 480 plus the 410, which is going to give us our total at 990. So that is pretty much the center of that. So our X position is going to be 990. And as you can see, something went funky there. 410 to 70 is 960. Be 480. So 410, yeah. It should be right. Doesn't quite look it though. Let's just try to guesstimate where the center is. So we're going to say there. So ignore this. That was apparently wrong. If you know the method to find the exact center, awesome. If not, we're just going to guess. So effects, not effects. On this one, we're going to need to add behaviors and sign. Think of sign as showing the squiggly line. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to make your object move in a squiggly line. So let's give that a quick play. And it's moving our box back and forth, left and right, because it is set for horizontal. And sign, because sign is from one point to the other, is moving back and forth. If we set it to triangle, it would move in a triangle form. or sawtooth. It would basically do like a sawtooth, which I think is one direction up and down. But we're not going to worry about that. We're going to worry about this. Oops, make sure sign is set for the wave. So period. We're going to leave that the same at the moment. And we know 900 and, what was that? 410 to 1370. So 980. Our magnitude is over a span of 980, but since we're starting in the middle, we're going to say 490. And we're going to see how close that all is. Alright, so we're a bit far. So we can take this down. Say 370. Maybe that was too much. That was a little too much. And as you can see, it's getting closer to the left than it is the right. So let us select that and use the arrow keys. 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. We're just going to say there. Get it a little bit closer. And preview once again. You will be previewing a lot. That's pretty close. So let's change this magnitude up. We want it to go farther to the side. So we're going to say 390. See what happens. Close to the edge, close to the edge. That's good because you don't want them to be able to just simply walk onto it, which right now they couldn't because it's too high. So let's fix the height. So we're going to go. Oh, everything's freezing up on me. It does not like recording this long. So we're going to select this, look at the position at 890 and 270. Remember, left is changing the first number, right is changing the first number, down is changing the second number, up is changing the second number. So we need the 890, the left and right position, to be remembered. And we're going to put this as close to level with the floor. And then change this X value back to 890. Make sure you still have a comma between that number there. And leave that number there because that's going to set our height. So now we should be in the middle and level. There we go. I'm happy with that. And we need some collectibles. We need something to collect to say we're going to get rid of this. And we need something to say that we're going to collect to change this. Changing gets to be the fun part. Alright, so we're going to insert new image over here. A new sprite. And if you have an image you would like to use, you can upload it. If you do not, let's just use this light blue. And make sure our paint tool is selected. Oh, that's a big old blue. Well, let's make it something like this. Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm actually just going to say 65 by 65. Size doesn't matter as long as it's within collectible range. So we're going to do that. And unlike the floors, we're not going to drag and make a new copy that way. We are going to right click, insert a new object, sprite, put it roughly there, and we can even just use the same old color. And do not forget names. Number one training. Oh, let's put that 65, 65 like the other one. And We're going to move this a bit farther in. There we go. So now, even though these two look the exact same, they are not. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to start naming them. So for the red sprite, we're going to say barrier. For the green sprite, we're going to say floor. Name is reserved. I don't know why the name is reserved. Probably something to do with in-game. But let's say platform. There we go, it accepted platform. So now all of these are named platform. So that's good. Make sure this red one is also named barrier. And we're going to name the ladder, which means this one and this one was also changed to ladder. And I'm going to say spikes just because I use spikes. You can name it whatever. You can name it death. You can name it destroy player, whatever you want. As long as it lets you, that is. So we're going to name this one moving with sides. You don't have to name it that. I'm just naming it something simple so we know what we're looking at when we're selecting our options in the event sheet. Alright, we are almost there. Just about ready. Oh, and the key. We need to name the key. So now we can insert a new object because everything on the project has been named, except for these. So no barrier is going to be that name. This blue one here is going to be no sides. And now we can create a new image. Sprite. Use a picture of a door. Or we're going to make like a really dark reddish brown, whatever color that is. And we're going to make that the door. So as before, you can set it just above. You can set it overlapping. It doesn't truly matter. Just roughly get the size and shape of a door that you want. And then like on this one, if it's overlapping, see order, send to bottom. So now it's perfectly lined up with the floor and we can't see any extra. And let's actually go in here. This is where sizing is going to come into play. The specific way you size it. So 136 by 257. Remember that. We're going to go in here. We can either double click on it or select it and hit enter. And I forgot my numbers. 136, 257. So we're going to set this using this resize tool to 136 and 257. And there we go. I think it's because it was already resized, it changed it. So we're just going to expand that back out again. Alright, now we're going to take our circle and we're going to make black and put the secondary color to black. And we're just going to draw. And if you don't want it to do this, you can hold shift and it will hold it or make a perfect circle. So now we have a cute little door. And, oops, don't want to rotate. Do not rotate. We're going to actually insert another image. Put it in roughly in the same spot. And I probably should have done this with the other colors still selected, but we're going to get close enough to the color to hopefully get it right. Then we're going to change that back to black. Set the size to whatever it was. Size 97 to 264. Size 97 to 264. And we're going to draw our doorknob. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be the same size. And for our sake, it's probably good that it looks different, just so we can see what's going on. So we're going to name this one, is going to be door open. And we're going to set it as close to possible as over top of that as good as we can. And then we're going to come down here on the properties. We are going to set initially visible on the properties tab and uncheck that. So now we don't even want this visible in our editor. For our sake, for this game, you're going to want to leave this here. Do not delete it off the screen, although you can and spawn it in later on a certain action, and then it'll be fine. But to save that extra coding, we're going to leave it there. And we're going to uncheck visible in editor. So if you can't find it later, that is why. So we're going to select this one. And I don't believe we need any special things. No, we don't need anything special with that. So we're going to leave that as is for now. And we need one more thing, 2, 3 more things to officially get this going. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this instance or this picture and let's not do it that way. That's not the right way. So we're going to insert new object and sprite. And you can just basically make it black. I said make it black. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop this directly over top of that. Make it as pretty as possible. And it just keeps moving another inch. There we go. Now, that lined up pretty well. Oh, and if you select again, make sure only that is selected and it didn't select the entire box. We're going to name this to top mover. Alright. Now that we've done that, we can insert a new image. And we're going to put it roughly there. And we're going to paint this one black. And just like on that one, we're going to click and drag to try to make it fit pretty. There we go. Get that down there. Get that there. Don't do that for the first one. No. Okay. So yeah, just try not to go too far thick. It doesn't truly matter, but if you want it to look pretty, as far as even when it switches, then that's how you want to do it. All right, so we have those. And now we need a player. All right. We're going to set our player here for the start. And as before, you can just kind of pick a color. Let's go pink. And here is the important thing. You need to think about size. So what is our size going to be? For the way we want this to set up for our layout, we want it to be almost as thick as the ladder. Bottom can be pretty close to the floor. And then the top, just set the height at something reasonable. And there you go, you have your player. Now, if we were using actually images, this would look so much better. But for now, it is worthy of editing just for the code, just to practice coding, because we're not making games for money, we're practicing our skills. And that is one big tip I can give you. Don't jump into it and make your game right away. Make 20 stupid games. 20 games that aren't going to make any money. 20 games that are just going to waste your time. If you do this, you will practice each part of this program and you will get better at it rather than just trying to jump into it, getting frustrated and quitting. So now that we have our player, we are going to take him and we need to officially write some code for this. But before we write code, let's do what I'm going to call semi-code, image code, or smart objects. Any one of those will fit. So we're on the player. We're going to go to, oh, and don't forget, rename. So the door showing is the locked door, remember? Door locked. Make sure we find all our sprite images. Now that we've selected it, we can see it is moving bottom. And let's put these together so I can find them easier. So moving top. There we go. Now they're named about the same and I should be able to find them in the same general area when I'm making my selections. Oh, and we still have our sprite 3, so rename that to player or person or uh, anything you want to name it really. So we have nothing named as sprite. So let's go to behaviors. With the object selected that you want to edit the behavior for, let's talk a little bit about behaviors. So you can find it on the properties tab here. If you don't want to find it that way, you can find it in the project tab over here. Right click, edit behaviors, takes you to the same thing. If you don't need to see what behaviors are already on there, like you would see here, you can right click the image itself, add behavior, and we're going to make it a solid. So now that we've done that, if we choose to go in this way, we can see that that solid has already been selected as a behavior. If we go in at it from this way, we cannot, unless you know that solid is here and that we can't see it anymore. Just one thing to keep in mind when you're going through your different menus. Alright, now that we have solid, we're going to go in here, add a new behavior. And we are going to add movement controls. And we're making a platform game, so we want platform controls. And this is where it can get a little tricky. We're doing a second set of movements because platform controls are going to control the player through the game board, basically when it's on the platform. But because you cannot move up on the screen, we're going to make an 8-direction movement also. And the reason you don't want both is because 8-direction, you would have to do extra coding for gravity and movement, and then some of the 8 directions may get a little bit buggy. So this is the way I've came around to getting a workaround. So now that we've done that, we're going to set the floors. And remember, when we change one floor, it's going to change all floors because we did the drag and copy version. If you've uploaded multiple images for each different floor, you will need to select each image and do this for each individual image that is its own separate floor. So we're going to go to behaviors on this one and set it to solid. And on this game, it may not make a difference, but we're going to go ahead and put jump through. Because this level should not have any availability to jump through the floor except for maybe right here. That's why we're going to add that. And also in other levels down the line, you're going to make another layout. Say you're on level 5 and you got one where you want them to jump through the floors to get to where they want to go. Well, now you don't have to add that in on this guy. It's already there. So we're planning ahead. Alright, now with this selected, we've got our solid and our jump through, and that is true for any of these floors that we have set. So now we have this one. We do not need to change anything to it, unless you want to add a little bit of flair. Let's add a little bit of flair. Just to this one only, we're not going to bother with that one. So edit behaviors, and we're going to do sine wave again. Actually, well, since we know sine, no, let's just keep using sine because that's the one I know well. So we're going to change this one to vertical because we want it to bounce up and down. Still going to keep the sine wave. We're going to set the magnitude to something small like 10, and maybe the period. Since it's a small movement, we want it to happen quickly, and we're going to take it down to 2. There you go. As you can see, our little box here is moving up and down. And since our player is having platform controls, it added gravity, which is why these needed to be solid so it wouldn't fall through. Alright, so now we have every moving part that we want. We could do the same sine thing to this one, but we're going to save some time. So now, yeah, let's get into coding. So introduction to coding. This is what you're going to see when you first load it in. You can do add event, you can right click add event, or add whatever you want. But if you're following me, we are going to do add event. So what are we doing? We're going to say our player, because we want to edit our player first so we can test some things. So, before we do that actually, I almost forgot, we have 2 different motions, 2 different directional inputs. We're going to leave default controls off. Well, we're going to leave default controls on. We'll worry about coding that in later once you have more of a handle on this. So default controls on, and we're going to select enabled off because 8 direction we only want when we're on top of a ladder. So think about that when you're setting movement styles. And on platform, we're going to keep everything the same. And default controls, yes. If you want WASD, we are going to be coding those in later. But with default controls, we'll be using up, down, left, right. Same to be said on 8 direction when it becomes enabled again. Alright, now we are officially ready for some code. So we're going to add event, and for the player, and let us say is overlapping the ladder. So we pick our ladder image, click done, or you can hit enter. So when our player is overlapping the image, what we want our player to do is set the 8 direction enabled, because remember we had disabled that to begin with. So now it will be enabled. And so we don't have any issues with gravity or communications between input and actual game. We're going to make the player turn off the platform, so set enabled to disable. So now when we're on the ladder, the only movement it will register is the 8 direction. The platform movement is the one that adds gravity. So we will lose our gravity and we will stay floating right where we are until we hit an arrow key to move. So let us test out that code. It's going to be buggy, I promise you. And as you can see here, we still have these things showing. Not a good thing. So now that we're over top of this, I can climb the ladder. But as you can see, a bunch of weird stuff's happening. And oh no, I do not have a way to land on the board again unless I push down. But it's still not acting right. So why are we not getting our gravity back when we're off of the ladder? Because only when we're overlapping the ladder, it looks like this should be disabled. Well, when you set something, you are basically toggling enabled versus disabled. So since you are toggling, you need to Control C for copy, Control V for paste, um, or you could right click, copy, right click, paste, or you could just type in the code all over again, which for the very beginning level, that's what we're going to do. We'll get into copy and paste later. So when the player is overlapping an object, ladder, and yes, we are starting out exactly the same as this, which is why I was saying do the copy and paste. But once we get to this point, what we want to do is select this, have just this part highlighted, and then right click on is overlapping, add another condition. Oh no, we're not adding a condition. Sorry, brain fart. We're going to invert. So how you read this, player is overlapping ladder. Player not is overlapping ladder. So it's saying when the player is not overlapping ladder. Then we are going to set the player to disable the 8 direction, which you'll have to set enabled and then change it to disabled. And then you are also going to do player. We're going to set enabled again, but only this time we're going to go down to platform, set enabled, and enabled. Now this is the same thing that we want. People following along, do not follow me here. If you want to do the copy and paste version, do Control C, Control V, then click this, double click it, and then hit back. Oh, no, still brain fart again. Same spot too. So remember, we did the invert. So remember, it not is overlapping means is not overlapping. And since we copy and pasted, the 8 direction is enabled just like before, and the platform is disabled just like before. But since this is opposite of that, we need this to be opposite of that. So we're going to double click, set disabled, double click, and set enabled. Now that we've done that, we can test our stuff out, which I can tell you right now will still be buggy. So we're over the ladder, we're going up, everything looks good, but that's just because I'm pushing up. Now, if I'm moving left and right, moving left and forth on the ladder, oh looky here, it's kicking us off, and here we are. So it's barely letting us up there, so we need to fix a little bit of that. And also, we don't want it to rotate, or at least for the game I'm making, I don't want it to rotate. If you want it to allow rotation like that, you can do that. You will just want to make sure that this is set a bit shorter, maybe just even a square, so that way it doesn't come in issue over here running into the bottom of the platform. But if you're like me and you say, I don't want it to change the angle, we're going to go to 8 directions with the player selected. Uh, we can keep 8 directions and go to no angle. You can allow sliding, so basically when you stop, it's going to continue moving a little bit and then stop. We don't want that either, so we're going to leave that unticked. And now what happens? Test, 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 always test. So we got to use the arrow keys. We have our jump. And when we get here, we can go up and move left and right, and it's not rotating us. And just like that, we are good to go. So, interesting thing here, because of the way we've set this up, when I had an actual picture of a ladder and it dipped down right there, it would not actually let me just simply do that, and it would not let me stand on top like so. It would be very, very buggy. If you have that issue, there are ways around that, which I'll go ahead and show you right now. So we're going to select this ladder. We're going to hit enter, or you can double click it. And we're going to take this all the way down to here. And this is basically saying this is a collision mask. So when I talk about a mask later, that is what I am talking about. Now, depending on which one of these you click on is depending on where it's going to put it. Let's start with the top left corner. Add a point. And it's going to add a point between these two values. So we're going to move that. And we're going to add another point. And it's going to do that. So now we have our full ladder selected, but we don't want our full ladder selected. So we're going to bring this down. And we're going to try to keep it close to center as possible. Bring that down. And then bring these out to the edge. This is basically going to help us create a platform for a picture of a ladder that isn't just a solid square like we have here. And then we will also drag this in and drag this in. And as before, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just going to tidy it up a little bit. And that's good enough. So we have our picture of the ladder, and the collision mask is this top triangle and this entire center column. If we are touching this part, it should do nothing. So let's take a look and make sure of that. So I'm touching the ladder. I still have my platform controls with the jump, but once I come into the collision mask, I have my climb. So, and it does get a little glitchy sometimes, and that's because it's actually trying to fall. Like once it goes off this edge, it wants to fall. But as soon as it falls, it notices that it's touching this. So it stops the fall because it's activating the 8 directions. So as we saw, whenever we're on the game, that bar there was actually visible. We do not want that visible. So properties initially visible, set unchecked. For the bottom one, and if you can't select it because of the box, you can always find it over here. So we're going to go down, properties, initially visible, uncheck. Now, let's say you want to add a special feature to your ladder, which is going to come into play why we did this. So we're going to insert a new object, a sprite, and we're going to select right here. We do nothing. Just close that. We want a blank image, an image that cannot be seen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that there and put this here. And we could actually put that there. Now, so basically, what we're doing is we're making a barrier. So we don't want the barrier to be out here because if we're on this platform, we won't be able to fall off this side. So we want to give it as much room as possible. And let's say the special feature you want is you don't want your player to be able to move sideways off the ladder, but you still want them to be able to move sideways. So, what you're going to want to do is bring this as far down as possible, or as far down as you'd like, as high as your player, maybe halfway, maybe 3/4. We're going to go 3/4, give or take. So for this one, we are going to control drag, and we can't tell, but it's making a copy. And we're going to set this one up here, all the way to the top of the ladder, because we don't want them to come off the ladder. And the height is 677 or 672 where my cursor is. So we're going to just drag this down for the position, or we can say 672 on the second number because that is the Y number. Oh, that was the wrong move. So undo that. Let's just click and drag. So that'll be good enough. Doesn't have to be perfect. So now, sprite, we need to name it. So we're going to call it ladder wall. So that clear instance and that clear instance is named ladder wall. And we are going to set down here, or if there's just too much going on and you can't find the behaviors, feel free to right click the invisible thing, add behavior, or as before, yes, I know I'm repeating, click ladder wall here, right click behaviors. So what we're going to do is make that a solid. so our player cannot pass through that. There is no visible image set, so it should not show up on screen. And now we have regular controls, we have ladder controls, and we cannot move off of the ladder no matter how hard we try. Now, one thing to keep in mind, depending on where your mask box is on your player, say you squeezed it in on both sides and it is super thin. What's that going to do to us? That is going to mess up our ladder controls so much. So we're here, we're climbing the ladder, everything looks right. Oh, but because our mask on our player has stopped overlapping the mask on our ladder, it has fallen. But as you can see, I can still jump into the ladder, which gave me a good boost, and everything else works just fine. Oh, and look at there. Player went off screen. We don't want that because he just fell off the board. Alright, so player, we did forget. We're going to add behavior and bound to layout. So now it cannot leave this gray area. Oh, and if you were following me on this, be sure to set these image points back all the way across. And now that we've fixed that, we officially have our controls and we can move left and right without fear of falling. And the reason why, if you don't want to come off the sides and you say you disable left and right, well, when you get down here, your left and right's still disabled. So you won't actually be able to leave the ladder at all. So that is one issue. This is why we're using an invisible wall barrier to keep us on the ladder. And basically, we're just going to find that image, control click, and let's put it right there, give or take on the height. Yeah, there we go. Uh, don't make a new instance when you're trying to place it like I did. You'll have to do control Z or control Z in order to undo. So we're going to set this all the way to the edge of the ladder. Doesn't need to be super thick. So we're going to control drag, and we're going to put this one here. And try to make sure it's at the top of the ladder without going over, because any extra edges to catch on could cause glitchy movement, as you saw in some of that already. So now we have our next one. We're going to control click and drag. And we're going to put this right on the edge there. And for this one, even if you want to be safe, you could put it up into the green. It doesn't matter because our player will never be overlapping the green. So let's just drag this down to that layer, or down to this floor. Or actually, we're not supposed to let them off the ladder, are we? So we're going to take it down to there, expand that out into the ladder a little bit, and copy and paste by control click and drag. So we're going to set that a little bit inside, and we still want to be able to reach getting through here. So we're probably just going to leave a very small area there, and we're going to click and drag with the control again. You can put this up in the green, overlap a little bit and take it down roughly here. And it's close enough. So now with that, we need to code for these ladders. So event sheet, we got overlapping ladder. Actually, since they are the same instance variables, we do not need to copy over our code for overlap ladder. Only if, say, this one and this one, let's say this was the middle ladder. If this was the middle ladder, it's a different image and you would have to code for it. Since all these are the same image, same sprites, same instances, we are going to leave the code as is and test it. So we have our movements. We have our ladder that let us go up. And we're not supposed to go through that barrier, but we'll fix that later. And yes, we can climb this ladder still, even though we did not code for it. That is the beautiful thing about click and drag click and drag copy with the control. The only thing is you have to make sure that when you're coding, you do not want, let's say if you came across this thing here and you bumped into it and it was going to delete this middle ladder. If you set the code to do that, you would delete all 3 ladders. That is when you would need a separate image for each of these and separate code for each of these. And you would follow the same code as is here, and you'd have to do it for ladder left, and you'd have to do it for ladder small or ladder middle, and then you'd have to do it once more for ladder right, if you're going to do any changing to any of the images. But since we're not changing the image at all, having the same exact code is perfectly fine. Alright, and with that being said, we have reached an hour and 12 minutes. This is my longest video by far, I'm pretty sure. If you have learned anything, leave a comment or like down below. Another video will be coming out very, very shortly, basically starting off exactly where we're leaving. So, wait for the next upload. It shouldn't be terribly long. And we will build this game from start to finish with 100% being recorded. Nothing will be done unless I am recording. So this way, I'm not making steps and you're getting lost because I made steps without you seeing them. That being said, be smart, be responsible, and especially good luck.